Hi, I'm Dr. Karen Parker here with your weekly quantum human design energy forecast. This is the energy forecast for the week beginning on Monday, July the 7th. If there was an Academy Award for Planetary Movement and it was given to a year, I think that the year 2025 would probably win. This year, we have seen major sign shifts in the outer lying planets. These are the planets that are responsible for our collective themes. These are planets that usher in new seasons, new cycles in the human story. This year, Jupiter has moved into Cancer, a water sign. Saturn has moved into Aries, a fire sign. Uranus has moved into Gemini starting today on July the 7th. That is an air sign. Neptune has moved into Aries. That is a fire sign. Pluto has moved into Aquarius. That is an air sign. Next year, Jupiter will move into Leo. That is a fire sign. So we've got all this fire and air happening. We've got a little bit of a lead up with Jupiter in Cancer. That's our only water sign right now in the outer planets. But a lot of energy for expansion, for growth, for electrical themes, and sometimes cataclysmic themes. So if you think of fire, because fire is being fed by air, fire gets bigger, it burns bolder, it's more potent when it is fed oxygen. And so these energies have the capacity for combustion and, of course, catalysis. So when we think about the combustion, it's a season that could feel and has felt certainly very intense, very explosive, but also a season that promises to bring something new, to be a catalytic season that ushers in a new era in the human story. So no wonder we've all been feeling it, of course, so very, very intensely. And if you have been feeling it so very intensely, it's not going to change for a while. And I'm not saying that as a negative thing. We have the power. The planets aren't telling, they're telling us maybe what we need to learn, but they're not causing the events to happen. I want to stress that because so many times when I see people talk about astrology and the planets, they talk as if somehow the planets lay out events. And it doesn't work that way. We're not victims of planetary energy. We're not hapless victims of an unfolding destiny that we have no control or choice over. And when I say we, I'm not saying, obviously you on a personal level have a certain amount of control over your life, but I'm really saying collectively, all of us together, putting our stories together, we have the power to influence what we create next in the human story. And certainly I would say, to me, these big shifts in the outer planets say the human story itself is changing. And what's available to us and how we choose to steer it is up to us. And certainly I would say, as we look at today, July the 7th, when Gemini moves into, Uranus moves into Gemini, we see inside of us, personally and collectively, the opportunity for us to heal our inner polarization, to go inside and find any of those places where we are living out a story that's either this or that, a place where we are opposed and limited because something opposite of us feels like it has control over us. When we can unify all the parts and pieces of who we are, both personally and collectively, and see that the universe offers us a smorgasbord of options, not just this or that, but the universe is really both and then some, that when we can recognize that, it gives us more power and control over what we choose to create. We become less reactive and more intentional with how we build towards the future. I believe that this conversation is so important that this upcoming Thursday, on July the 10th at 7 p.m. Central, I'm hosting a free pop-up quantum human design webinar. I'm going to be talking about Uranus in Gemini and looking ahead at what does that really mean, especially in the context of all the other planetary shifts that we've seen. It's totally free. I'm just doing this because I have so much I want to share with you, and I really want you to get this, because if we can all get what Uranus in Gemini is bringing us, we have the ability to break free from the patterns of the past. We have the ability to really initiate a brand new era in the human story. And I believe, honestly, we have the ability to really step solidly into our role as conscious creators on the planet. I will post for you the information that will take you to the Zoom link where we're going to be hosting this free pop-up webinar. That Zoom link has an event tab, so you can click on it and save it to your calendar. I'm not going to send you any emails or anything. This is just for your interest and for your information. I just want to bring this to you because it's so important, and I want to have a much more in-depth conversation about this. And we still have other things to talk about for this week. All right, I do also just want to share with you all something that's really important and special to me personally. Today, July the 7th, the new updated version of my very first human design book, Understanding Human Design, goes on sale today and is available for purchase. Now, when I wrote this book and published it, it was published by Hierophant Publishing in 2011, actually right after Ra passed, which was really unfortunate timing. This was a book I worked on for many, many years. It was one of the first human design books in the world. It is one of the top-selling human design books in the world, and it is a very solid introduction to traditional human design through a more positive lens in some cases, and it gives you a way to look at your story, who you are and who you're not, and help you take back control over how you choose to create your story in the world. I will also post the link for it below. The new edition is available. It's 15 years since I wrote that book. Fun fact, when I wrote that book, I was pregnant with my 5th child. I moved 2 weeks after she was born from Minnesota to Texas, huge move. When I arrived in Texas and put up my computer in my office, the manuscript was gone, just totally gone. And it was due at my publishers in 6 weeks. So I had to rewrite that book with a brand new baby in a laundry basket at my feet. So I had a newborn baby, my little projector daughter, at my feet while I reconstructed the entire manuscript from scratch, got it to my publishers on time, and it really is something I'm pretty proud of and pretty excited to be sharing with you all again. All right, let's talk about this week. It's such an interesting week. Like, this is such a very potentially exciting week. So I'm kind of giddy about it, just because, I think if I was going to give you 2 words for this week, is new beginnings, new beginnings, new beginnings, right? We have Uranus moving into Gemini. That's the 5th big planetary move this year. The sun is highlighting the gate 53, the gate of starting. The earth is grounding us in the gate 54, the gate of divine inspiration. So we have all of this energy for new beginnings. And hopefully, maybe you've been feeling some of the energy shift, some of the, the inner determination and fire coming back. And maybe you've been feeling like, hey, it's finally time. It's just time. I cannot accept halfway, mediocre, less than limitations anymore. It is time. It is pedal to the metal time in every way. And certainly I would say an incredibly important week for you to begin to think about the answer to the question, what do you want? What do you want? And to let yourself recognize that your capacity to create what you want, I think, is accelerating and expanding. So here's some things, though, that I want to bring to our awareness, because there's a conundrum this week. And it's a conundrum that I think we've been feeling a lot this year. And it's a conundrum that can feel kind of like push me, pull you, right? That we have this energy for new beginnings. We're feeling the lightness of it. We're feeling some pressure lifting. We're certainly feeling the capacity to really get serious about what do we need to do, right? And at the same time, we've got Uranus moving on Wednesday out of the gate 8, the gate of fulfillment, into the gate 20, the gate of patience. And so there's a lot of energy this week that's really pushing on us to get clear, but also a little bit of energy that's saying, but you got to trust the timing. Now, that theme of trusting the timing, we talked about this a lot last week too, isn't just living with Uranus, it's also in the nodes, right? The nodes are saying, get a good mindset, envision, dream. Don't worry about the how. Hold the vision, hold the faith, hold the energy. That's the lesson we're being trained right now. We're being trained to learn how to hold the energy and trust the process. And Uranus is saying, and you got to be patient. And why do you have to be patient? Because there's a lot of details that have to be engineered. There's a lot of critical mass that has to be created, both inside of yourself and in the field of information within which you're creating. We are still in dream time, even though it feels like we're moving into action time. We are moving into action time, but when we see these big planets move, they don't all just move and sit there. They kind of move and wobble back and forth for a little bit. So really we have another year of kind of teetering a bit on our training wheels and finishing up the old and getting ready for the new. And that takes patience. That takes trust in right timing. That doesn't mean don't prepare. It doesn't mean sit back and be like, it's not the right time yet. It means do the work necessary to set the stage and lay the foundation, both internally and externally, so that when the timing is right, we're ready to go. And don't get frustrated and don't lose patience. And that's hard, right? It's like patience and gratitude are really challenging energies because we have to really, as part of the creative process, be able to hold patience and gratitude and not get comfortable there, right? There's a fine line between patience and gratitude and desire. And oftentimes when we get to gratitude and patience, we start settling, right? We say, oh, well, I can make do with what I have, right? We stop that creative process. And so we have to learn how to hold both patience and gratitude and desire. And to know that the patience and the gratitude can't stop us from saying, I love this, I'm so satisfied, I'm experiencing paradise, and I want more, and it's okay. We don't have to feel guilty about that. We don't have to feel shame about that. And here's a little piece that I want to add to it, a little twist that I want to give you in this dreaming process that we're in. So many times when we think about manifesting and dreaming and creating, and I think this is why sometimes we stop ourselves short with it, is our focus tends to be on ourselves, right? I want $1 million. I want this house. I want this car. I want this experience. I want this soulmate. And it's about I, right? And that I is an important part of your creative equation. Don't get me wrong. Your story, who you are, your identity is creating, and who you are is extremely important. But sometimes when we think about the process of intentional or deliberate creation, we invariably think about it through the lens of ourselves. Here's an invitation for you this week. Creation is fueled by the heart. When we look at human design, we see that the creative process is calibrated by the magnetic monopole and the quality of love we experience. The more we love ourselves, the more we love each other, the more we love who we are, the more we express ourselves authentically, the more power we have, the more we love source, the more we love our bodies, the more love we have, the more we calibrate ourselves in a direction that is abundant, right? And I want you to think about you in the context of us and we. Because sometimes in that creative process, because we're trained so much into thinking about I am and I want and I, all those pieces, I want you to simultaneously, this is not an either or, this is a both and, right? That's part of depolarizing yourself. When we think both and, I want you to also think about how you, in the fulfilled expression of yourself, can also take the overflow of who you are and what you have and put it into service for the world. Put it into service for the world. Think about how are your words from that place, how are your words going to impact and inspire and maybe give people an aspirational tract? How is your teaching, maybe whatever you want to teach or share with the world, how is that going to positively impact people? How's your creativity going to expand on not only the goodness in your own life, but the goodness in the world? When we can take a few minutes as part of our visualization process and think about how the goodness that we have not only impacts our own lives, but impacts the greater good, allows us to serve at a higher level. And when I say service, I'm not saying martyrdom, and I'm not saying you have to go into a service-based business. I'm saying your very essence as an expanded, abundant being serves others. I want you to think about how when you hold that energy, what you're going to inspire the world to be. How you're going to create aspiration for the people around you to encourage them to also be the best that they can be. Here's the deal. And I want you to think about this. I went to a funeral of a beautiful woman this weekend. Now, this isn't a woman that I knew very personally at all, but somebody who was an important person in our community. And she came up with an idea for a school that's been in place in our community for more than 40 years, an incredible, innovative school, right? And she did this because she wanted something better for her own children. And in doing so, created this ripple effect with families and children who are now become mature adults who have their own children who are also going to the school. The impact and the ripple that she's had with the story that was her life has changed the community story and ultimately our collective story of what we think is possible in education. When we die, our stories are in essence put into a collective story vault. And when the stories that we tell about who we are and how we are, we fulfill ourselves to the fullest extent possible. When we change our story and become sovereign over it, that means we release ourselves from societal expectations and familial expectation, from ancestral lineage. When we liberate ourselves to take back control over our own story and we fulfill that story that each and every one of us was born to fulfill, and we put that story back in the story vault, when our story comes to its completion, we change the world. We change what's possible. The rest of the world that comes after us can go to that vault and pull out stories of possibility. They can be inspired and aspire to whatever we leave in that vault. So if you think for any second that your life isn't important, your life is vital. Your life is essential. And it is contributing not only to your personal life, your personal growth, your personal expansion, your own abundance, but the abundance of the people around you. And ultimately, it leaves a legacy of abundance for the world. So take back your story, take back control over your story, and use the power of your story to do something beautiful in the world. And the most important beautiful thing you can do is be yourself. Be yourself. And so start this week with Uranus and Gemini and start reclaiming that story and get back into the heart of who you are and use the power of your story. Use the power over your story to create a life that truly is a reflection of the magnificence that you were born to be. That's what I got for you this week. Take good care of yourselves. Be well. I'll see you next week.